Hey, congratulations. You're listening to the Family by Design Anniversary Podcast. And we're really excited just to share this with you. Liz and I just share a few highlights and just some things that were on our heart and just kind of celebrating the fact that we've hit our 1 year mark with Family by Design. And this has been one of the most fruitful things that we've done. And we've seen a lot of people really get touched and ministered to from this podcast. And we just want to say thank you to our partners. You guys make this possible and all of the things that Ward Ministries is able to do. And we just want to say thank you. And by the way, if you haven't gone on to your podcast platform that you listen to this on and written us a great review and given us a 5-star rating, man, we'd appreciate you doing that. That will help get this podcast further, make the gospel go further, and bless people. So we just say bless you and your family as you listen.
I'm really excited because this is our 1 year anniversary with doing Family by Design podcast. It's one of my most favorite things that we get to do together, is just being able to sit down, have a conversation, and get each other's thoughts about different things.
Because we never do that.
Well, we do have a lot of conversation. We do, actually.
Right, but I know what you mean, on this platform,
on a platform.
In this way. Yeah, it's beneficial.
Because I think that it's powerful. I believe a lot of the conversations that we have are very, very important
just the idea
and
of
influential.
Having conversation about this, just that basic idea should be something that, hopefully our heart is that it inspires people to communicate at a better and higher level when it comes to these kind of things, all of the things that we talk about. And we've got, I believe, many more years of doing this because we have lots more we can talk about.
Yes.
Lots of angles to hit different things. And so that's part of our heart, is that people will be able to just become more comfortable with having conversations about even difficult things.
Because I remember I was very naive in my thinking, and I was like, I can't be naive anymore. I'm raising 4 boys.
Right.
So I have to get over feeling weird about talking about sex and masculinity and sexuality and all these things, because we have children. And if we're not leading the conversation, then somebody else is leading the conversation. And especially in those topics, I want to be the one who's leading that conversation with our children.
And so there's conversations, especially surrounding those areas, that the world definitely will lead in. But then also there's things that if you don't lead in, they're not going to know.
That's right.
Like about finances, about how to just love your spouse right.
Right.
Different things, disciplining your children. Your children are never too young to learn how to discipline.
That's
when
right.
your child goes from, leaving your house to starting their own family one day, not that they shouldn't come back and ask questions or read books to discover new understanding or whatever, not new understanding, but just a new to them understanding.
Right.
There's nothing wrong with all that, but they should basically know how to do some things.
That's right.
And they should know how to do things because you were open about what you did, what you did, why you did, how you did it, all of that. And so communication has to be interwoven. And a lot of families that just have a lot of challenges communicating. And so that's what this podcast is all about. It's all about communicating about the needs, the wants, the dynamics, the challenges of family and marriage. And, just to reiterate, the reason we name it Family by Design, a lot of this goes back to thinking that we carry this in the church, in our home, in business, everything, that if you don't have things are not done intentionally, they're going to be done by default. So if you're not designing something,
that's right,
then you're going to fall into some kind of mold. Every family has dynamics, but that doesn't mean that they're good.
That's right.
Every family has, and every family has problems. I'm not saying we're not free of, that we're free of problems, but, we are free of just living just whatever life throws at us, and just kind of
a happenstance.
Right? We're very intentional with our life, and even things that come at us that we didn't know about, we're very intentional with it. Right. And so that's my heart, is with this podcast, that it will continue to illuminate people's hearts to the fact that they too can have a family by design.
That's
It's
right.
not just our family by design, but it's your family by design.
That's right.
Yeah.
And I think it's so vital too, because oftentimes people will look at other families or other marriages or other children and say, I wish that my family was like this, or I wish my children was this, and I wish my marriage was this, and it's not, and they feel powerless to change it. And just through us having conversations and just sharing our heart and our wisdom, I believe that it will cause people to feel powerful and effective in making changes to have the family that they always envisioned of having.
Yeah.
And that is then where we're going to see change in our culture. And it starts with one person, one marriage, one family, and then it can go from there. And so I think that that is so powerful. So with this being our 1 year anniversary, which is crazy to me. It does not feel like it's been a year, but it has been.
Yeah.
And so what was your favorite podcast that we've done so far?
Well, that I'll say this, that we got to interview some really great people.
Yes,
We had my friend Troy, we had my sister, we had Wendy.
That was powerful.
We had
yeah.
Joseph Z.
Yes.
We had Mike and Carrie.
Yep.
And then we had Sarah. I
Yes.
think maybe that might have been the totality of our guests. And I might be, Kyle Winkler. We had him in there. He had a
Yes.
great podcast on
Yes.
just being single,
Single,
right? And so it's hard to say which one was our favorite because we had a special guest on and we had a lot of fun doing that. But let me throw it out this way. What I felt like was maybe the most beneficial one, I feel like probably had to do with the most recent ones we made on finances. And we talked about knowing the state of your money, stewardship, and just money philosophy. I think
Yes.
those were the different
Yeah,
topics
those
that we
three.
talked about. And we had a lot of feedback from people that said, man, that was really good stuff. And I feel like that was, maybe I'll just say that those are my favorite because that was a huge pain in our life. It was a huge hurt in our life. And we love our families. We're very honoring towards our parents, but we were not raised with a real high level awareness of finances.
That's right.
And so we don't do it perfect, but in our marriage and of course in ministry and everything we do, we have a high level stewardship, and that just continues to grow. And we're
That's
very
right.
aware of what's going on financially, and we've brought that into our family, and we try to talk to our kids. We do talk to our kids about
A lot.
as much financially as we possibly can
Yes.
to help them be able to step into some proper understanding. And that's one of those areas, like I mentioned before, to where, you need to talk to your kids about finances. Some people are going to lead the conversation with your kids about topics if you don't. But then sometimes there's conversations where nobody will lead.
That's right.
And I feel like that if you're not giving your kids the right perspective about finances, they may not have any perspective about finances. Sometimes people, or they'll just develop their own, but it really won't be a very intentional philosophy about money.
That's right.
And they need to have not just a good stewardship mentality, but a kingdom mentality. Because
Yes.
you can be, I think stewardship is kingdom, but you can be good at managing your money and not have a kingdom mentality.
That's right.
And the reason that we want to prosper is to advance the kingdom of God. That's it. That's the sole purpose. I'll say that's the main purpose. We also want to leave an inheritance to our children.
That's right.
And that's been a big driving force with us lately. Like, let's impact the kingdom now, but make an impact for the kingdom now.
That's right.
But also for the future, as we leave our kids with an inheritance. It says a wise man leaves an inheritance to his children's children.
Yeah.
And that could mean you actually cut your grandkids in the will, but it could just mean that there's so much money there
That's right.
that it will be passed from generation to generation because of the amount of wealth, but also the knowledge of how to
Yes.
handle
Yes.
wealth. So not only being able to obtain it, but be able to handle it properly and use it for kingdom purposes. And so, and talking about money sometimes is difficult with people, probably mostly not our listeners, but people are always like, oh, you're just into that prosperity stuff. It's like, if you think like that, you're a knucklehead and you don't understand what the scriptures teach. But it's not about having money. It's about having influence. It's about being able to affect change.
That's right.
And I watch how more millionaires and billionaires give away a lot more money than the people that are living paycheck to paycheck,
Come on.
screaming about how prosperity is bad.
Right.
And so I just think having a great and a proper and a biblical understanding about finances, how to handle finances, what they're used for, all of that is extremely important. So for me, those were probably my favorite ones, and I think it's coming from a place, feeling like a place of victory.
Yes.
We feel like we've had victory in that area, and we've had victory in a lot of areas, but we feel like we've really had victory. Not that we've got it all together, not that we've got $1 million, not that we don't have any struggles, but money doesn't rule us.
That's right.
So
That's
we
powerful.
rule it, and when I say that it doesn't rule us, it doesn't mean that we don't have to have it. I'm not saying we're independently wealthy, but it doesn't capture our heart.
That's
Jesus has captured our heart.
Yeah.
And so we take money and we use it as a tool. And because we've learned to steward it right, because we've learned to say no to things,
Right.
all of that, we've been able to use money as a tool. And we're able to do things that we want. We're able to have things that we want. We're able to save. It's because we're very intentional
And
with our
invest
finances, invest all of that
Start
stuff.
really building wealth.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So that was my favorite. So I'll just turn the question right back around to you and say, what was the thing you gleaned from what we did? What was your favorite episode?
I love having a conversation with you just all around about all different.
I'm a great guy to talk to.
You actually are a very great guy to talk to. You listen, you're a good listener, and then you're a good communicator. And
am I marriage material?
I would marry you all over again. You challenge me and my thinking and with how I articulate and just make
I'm glad you didn't say you were challenging to me.
Well, we won't go there. That's another podcast for another time. Just kidding. Challenging spouses. No. You encourage me to keep growing and going forward and think more and differently in the sense that just don't be confined and how you view things. But anyways, for a very fun note, because I think when I'm listening to other podcasts, which by the way, I do listen to other podcasts. I think podcasts are one of my favorite things to do is just listen to them. But people, they'll be like, what's your number one marriage advice? And I hear this over and over and over again, and it's date your spouse. You start off in this very learning about each other and dating each other and being very intentional. But as life goes on, as you're already married, as you've already captured.
You actually made a recommendation to do something a few days ago.
I did. Aren't you so proud of me?
Oh, yeah, I guess so, sure.
No, I was intentional
I was
about
like, whoa, I didn't have
doing
to come up with this.
Something, because I know that you enjoy that. So, we received just a lot of feedback. I heard lots of people send me a message or reply to us and say, we scheduled a date night. Date nights.
Because that really encouraged them to do that.
That's right, because life happens. We get busy, we have children, we work. There's just always things to do, and we get tired and we forget that we need to date our spouse. And that there are, as seasons change and as we grow and as we learn, we become, I don't want to say different people, but we like different things, or there's new things to discover about one another.
And it's if you don't continue dating your spouse,
Right.
You're going to miss out on things that are going on with them. You have to have that intentional time.
Yeah.
So you're saying that was one of your favorite episodes
Yeah.
we did was on date night.
And very
then you
practical.
it was very practical, and you felt like it really probably hit home with people.
Right.
Yeah, and really that was part of the reason why I think the finances were talking about finances in general were some
Right.
of my favorite, because I felt like it hit home with people.
Right.
Yeah, and so because we want to impact people, and so this podcast is kind of our 1 year anniversary thing, and we just thought we would just have a little recap. Would be one of the episodes we do, and so yeah, and so I think that just to kind of finish our conversation here, I think that the idea of doing something for the first time is is really good. I think that a lot of people, like, they could take just us doing this. Of course, we've spent a lot of years talking about marriage and family, just,
Sure.
Between me and you. But then, just the Lord will begin to move on our heart of, to launch a podcast and do this.
And we didn't know everything right away.
As like we do now, we know
Right,
everything,
we
right?
know everything. No, but
Yeah.
like we didn't let that limit us. We
Right.
didn't let it stop us to continue to start something.
We didn't
new.
let a lack of knowledge or fear keep us from doing something we believe was right. And so it ended up opening up the door for us to be able to do other things, because you and I, neither one, like, we haven't been thinking, boy, we just want to start a media ministry and like let it go all over the world or whatever. And I'm not saying that our ministry is, enormous, but we are starting to reach people in different
That's right.
places that
Yeah.
we're, it's being able to touch. And we just thank God for our partners that help us do that, because everything we do, it requires time. It requires, technology and money and different, it takes a lot.
Right.
And so our partners make that happen. So thank you, partners. But we're starting to reach people, but we're finding that we're able to step in and do some things that if we had not had the practice doing the podcast, doing our Saturday morning lives, at times we've thought, should we keep doing, especially Saturday morning lives, not our Family by Design podcast. I think this is a staple for the rest of our life,
yeah.
But our lives, we thought, should we keep doing it? We're not reaching as many people as we want, but it's all of this it's been a first for us, but it's taught us how to do some things.
That's right.
And then we just had an opportunity a couple of weeks ago where we were out in Colorado and we were able to go on Ashley and Carly Teradez's TV program, The Abundant Life. And then we did a couple other segments of things that they do, Unplugged and Small Talk. And we were able to do that because we had practice.
That's right.
Because we're not naturals at what we do. We've had to kind of learn how to do it, and we are still learning how to do it. But that gave us enough confidence and probably enough exposure too,
right.
But enough confidence to be able to do it. And so my point is, and I think your point would be with this too, that when's the last time you did something for the first time? Because if you do it, it could open up doors for you. It could open up opportunities for you that you would not have otherwise been able to do. And sometimes the thing that you feel like you need to do isn't always the thing that you want to do.
Right.
I've never really enjoyed recording. Now, I love sharing the word. I love helping people. I love having communication and stuff. But as far as like the technical side of things and like making sure this, that, the other, and just some of the things that we do, like we try to change our wardrobe up so we're not, wearing the same thing all the time. Those kind of things are not really fun to me.
Right.
But we've pushed through some of the things that haven't been particularly enjoyable, and we've reaped great benefit.
That's right.
And we were willing to say, you know what, we're going to do this, and we're going to keep doing it. And I think that there's a lot of people that could glean from that with their own life and their own family.
Yeah.
And ask yourself the question, when's the last time you did something for the first time?
And just do it.
And just go for it.
Yeah.
The worst thing you can do is fail. And so if you fail, just be like, well, that didn't work out, fail forward.
That's right.
We tell our leaders this pretty often, but, basically church, like, when leading in church in particular, it's a series of like, well, that didn't work. And I know people, they think that, ministers and pastors, like they just sit and they just hear so perfectly. And well, I think people know that better than that about me than that by now, but I think people can have a mentality of like, you just hear God and you do it. And it's like, because it worked out so well, that was it. And it's like, a lot of times we've started things and it did not work out well. And we had to go back and go, okay, let's try this. And it's like,
just remake adjustments.
That didn't work out so well either.
Yeah.
Like we've had like life groups, for example. We tried life groups like 3 times. And every time it just didn't work. It just didn't work. And then, Katie came back to us and said, I want to do life groups again. And I was like, nope. She goes, no, I really think. I was like, nope. And I threw out a bunch of nopes. But then as we kept talking about it and we developed a plan, we're like, okay. We're like, before we were like 60% certain it would work, and then we got to a point to where we're like 95% certain this will work, and it's worked and it's working really great.
So good.
And my point with all of that is that just because you try something and it doesn't work out like you want, go back and redo it. Because even this podcast, like we had some frustrating times in first recording, like learning how to record and then just
microphones,
different things that didn't work out, and like, oh, that didn't take, and you have to go back and redo it. And that's like, it's frustrating, but the more you work at it, the better you get. And if you have a vision in your heart, just go for it. Fail, it's fine, but fail forward.
That's
Just
right.
keep learning. And it also is okay to be like, yeah, that was a bad idea.
Yeah, we're not going to do it. That's okay.
We've done that before. So
And I think it's very, I'll, just end with this, that it's very important for our children to see how we fail. Because if they're not seeing us fail and that we're failing forward, that we're willing to try new things, that we're willing to step out not knowing everything, that is good for them, and it will help give them permission and build confidence to do new things, to go on new adventures, to be okay with failing the first time, but to keep at it.
Yeah.
And so I think that's a valuable lesson.
Yeah, absolutely. It's good.
Thank you for listening in on this conversation. Make sure you subscribe to this podcast, give us a 5-star rating, and write a review. Share it with your friends and on your socials. For more information about Ward Ministries, check out wardmen.org. If this podcast is encouraging you on your marriage and family, we want to hear about it. Email us at info@wardmen.org, and make sure you keep your eye out weekly for the latest podcast on marriage and family.